All right, let's dive in. Today, we're tackling a concept that's both deeply theological and, for a lot of people, super personal: the Great Apostasy. Now, what's so compelling about the material we're exploring is that it doesn't frame this as some dusty, ancient event. Nope, it's presented as a present-day reality, something that could be unfolding right here, right now.
And this is the question that really kicks the whole thing off. It just flips the script, doesn't it? It asks us to stop looking at the big external battles and instead focus on this much quieter internal struggle that's so easy to miss. I mean, just think about that for a second. What if the real danger to your faith isn't some loud, obvious attack, but a quiet, creeping departure from within?
So to really get a grip on this, we've got to understand the specific word being used here: apostasia. As you can see, this isn't about having a moment of doubt or making a single mistake. The material we're looking at says it's something way more significant: a conscious, complete turning away, a deliberate abandonment of what you once believed.
And that leads us straight to our first big idea: a silent rebellion. The whole argument here is that this apostasy isn't some loud protest in the streets. Instead, it's presented as a quiet defection, something that starts on the inside, in a person's heart and mind. So how would you even recognize something like that?
Well, that's the thing. How would you spot something so quiet? The argument is the first indicator isn't going to be some dramatic public announcement. It's far more subtle. It's this gradual loss of passion, this quiet cooling of love and conviction that can happen almost without anyone even noticing. Let's dig a little deeper into this first sign. Our source material gives it a really powerful name: the fading heart. And it's all about that cooling of love that we were just talking about. What's so fascinating here is that this isn't just seen as an individual problem, but a cultural one. The argument is that we might be living in a society that's basically suffering from compassion fatigue, where the emotional energy to actually care for other people just feels, well, exhausted. It becomes this huge collective burden instead of a personal calling.
This slide draws such a brilliant distinction. Outward hate is obvious, right? It's easy to see and to condemn, but inner indifference? That's way more subtle. Apathy doesn't actively fight you, it just stops caring altogether. And the key takeaway here is that this quiet indifference is presented as a far more dangerous and sneaky sign of a faith that's in decline.
So if the first sign is an internal cooling, the next logical question has to be, how does that interact with the world outside? And that brings us right to our next section, which explores that complicated intersection of faith and modern culture.
The core idea here is that the deceptions that can lead people astray aren't always going to be obvious threats. As this suggests, they can actually be found in familiar, trusted places, woven right into the fabric of our everyday lives. And that, of course, makes them so much harder to recognize and resist.
The material actually points to three key arenas where this all goes down. You've got the classroom, where worldviews are shaped. Then there's the marketplace, which influences what we value and what we desire. And finally, what's called the soul of culture. That's our media, our entertainment, our social narratives. The main argument is that in these very mainstream places, faith is being subtly challenged and in some cases, completely rebranded.
Okay, this is maybe the most startling claim from the source material. The idea that this falling away isn't just happening outside the church, but within it. That the pressure to conform can lead institutions to adopt a version of faith that, it looks the part, but it has lost its core convictions.
And this slide just lays the central conflict bare. It's the stable lighthouse of conviction versus the shifting weather vane of convenience. The tension is between holding firm to a timeless truth and adapting your beliefs just to gain cultural acceptance. The material we're looking at presents this as one of the defining choices of our time.
All of these pressures, both the internal ones and the external ones, are shown to be leading to a single climax, a decisive fork in the road. It's described as a great sorting, which all culminates in what's called the remnant stand.
As all these pressures ramp up, a moment of decision becomes pretty much inevitable. According to the analysis, this leads to two very distinct paths, which creates two very different groups of people that emerge from this whole period of testing.
And this slide illustrates those two outcomes perfectly. On one side, you have the falling away, where the visible church might actually shrink as people trade their convictions for comfort. But on the other side, you have what's called the faithful remnant, a group that, while maybe it's smaller, stands firm and endures against that cultural tide.
And so, after laying all of this out, the source turns the question directly back to the individual. It's not a theoretical discussion about trends or prophecy anymore. It gets deeply personal.
It's a moment for some serious self-examination, asking where you stand in the middle of this silent rebellion.
Ultimately, the material leaves us with this final call to action. It's an invitation, not just to think about these ideas, but for those who resonate with this path to share their own story of endurance. It's a thought-provoking conclusion to a really complex topic. Thanks for joining us.